Nintendo, the Pokemon company, has just sued Palworld, and it is setting a precedent for something that could be very, very detrimental to the gaming industry. How's it going, folks? Jack here with another video. So earlier this year I made a review on a game that took the world by storm, which was Palworld. This one had some amazing record that it broke with over 2 million concurrent players on Steam, creating a real David and Goliath scenario of bringing new ideas to an already existing concept that just rejuvenated the whole damn thing, something that quite frankly made Nintendo and Game Freaks look like they didn't know what they were doing, and was just overall a very decent experience. Now, with the game came a lot of criticism from either hardcore Pokemon fan or people who actually had some valid criticism levying to the game, the likes of whether or not the game was going to ever leave early access in comparison to the previous project that the indie dev had done in the past, whether or not the models from the past were things that were created by the dev themselves or were copied by other content creators. And lastly, of course, if the creation of the pals itself was going to give an incentive to Game Freaks or Pokemon to ever sue them for copyright infringement. Now, that last one was very interesting because it led to a bunch of people sending emails to the Pokemon company who, quite frankly, told people to stop doing that because if they ever saw something, they would have sued. And that was something that even legal experts started weighing in on, and it was, quite frankly, an understandable concern, but one that fortunately could be easily dismissed, as the concept of Pokemons or Pocket Monsters as a whole is something that is derivative of previous works already. So pinpointing exactly where the point of origin would have been for that would have been a little bit of a ridiculous endeavor for Pokemon to engage themselves in. This does not mean, however, that they have not tried, because all the way back in 2021 there was a Chinese company who blatantly created a Pokemon clone on Android, which was published under the name Pocket Monster Reissue, or Kudai Yaguai Fukai in Chinese, for which the Pokemon company of course had sued them through the Shenzhen Intermediate People's Court for copyright infringement and unfair competition laws. They were ordered to pay a whopping 107 million wons, which is the equivalent of $15 million, and this is a case that the Pokemon company only just won yesterday. So it is therefore not so surprising that a certain amount of confusion will occur when a title like this is dropped, saying that Nintendo and the Pokemon company are suing Palworld developers. And the company announces it was investigating the developers behind the Pokemon with Gun survival game back in January. And yes, we knew about this, and many of course has responded to this in various ways. As aforementioned, a question on many people's minds was whether or not they were going to be sued for copyright infringement, just like this Chinese company. This is not the case. What we're talking about here is a patent infringement, and this is actually way worse. Because Nintendo is perpetually living in this stage where they are constantly flashing the 1990s ad of "there's no such thing as Nintendo." For you know, the company has a very big fear with regards to its patent. For some of you who have been on the internet quite a lot will remember the time where this ad was showcased, as it was being flashed everywhere as perhaps like some sort of reminder of the patentry of Nintendo, just telling their fandom to do whatever the hell that they want us to do all the time. Or perhaps as a reminder for the many people who are calling every single thing a Nintendo to stop doing so. Now, the idea of something being called Nintendo everywhere should technically be beneficial, one would think, but in the world of trademarks, it's about one of the worst things that you can ever do. For in order for the Pokemon company and or Nintendo themselves to be able to trademark their name, they need to stay unique. Well, at least according to the 1946 Frisch-Lanham Trademark Act, that states, "No incontestable right shall be acquired in a mark which is the generic name for the goods or services or a portion thereof for which it is registered." So in other words, rendering the name Nintendo to be a colloquial term for video games in the likes that Skype became a thing for video call or Zoom now was a very bad idea. For that very reason, Nintendo wanted to prevent that the name became used that way. Similarly then happened with a lot of the mechanics within their games. Which brings us to this article here by Polygon stating that Nintendo Pokemon's patents may shed light on the Palworld lawsuit. Now, this is something that I'm bringing up to you because I was earlier trying to look through the different patents that Nintendo have, and they have a lot. It's goddamn hard to filter through. So having an article that covers the more important part was something that I thought I would share with you. So this is the more interesting part here, because the conversation around Palworld has largely been around the pals, right? Or whether or not they bore too much of a similarity to the Pokemons. Yet more interesting to this patent lawsuit here is that Nintendo and the Pokemon Company appear to have a patent in Japan that covers a crucial mechanic of its Pokemon game, catching and releasing Pokemon. Patent uses complicated but precise language to depict exactly what's covered, including lots of drawings and graphs to describe the process that gets to the on-screen action. And here it just describes what we know casting or launching a Pokeball towards a monster is like. And it is ridiculous, but that is unfortunately how it works. The sad thing, and the very sad thing about this, is that this might actually be something that is successful, because we have seen examples like this before. So this is the Nemesis system from one of my favorite games of all time, Shadow of War. I'm not showing you Shadow of Mordor because that one is uninstalled. Space. At its baseline, the Nemesis system is a villain generator, right? That populates the world of Mordor with procedurally generated baddies. Now, each one of them have their unique names, looks and attitudes that they display through taunts from time to time when they assault you, or occasionally when you do the assault.
When you shamed me, you destroyed my life. The others mock me.
Never gets old.
No one takes me seriously. My life is nothing but burning misery.
But at its best, this thing becomes a full-blown story generator, filled with personal vendetta, like NPCs that will literally take a bullet for you, or in this case, an arrow. And it's really just a great feat of software engineering, something that well-building games like, let's say, RimWorld, or what do I have here, the Matchless Kung Fu, or one of my favorite games as of late that is going to turn into version 1.0, Shadow of Doubts, Shadows, have been able to achieve. However, never to this degree, not with these graphics, not with these voices, and especially not with real-time action. Now, I am specifically mentioning the Nemesis system because this one has been questioned quite a bit as to why isn't this system implemented in more games? And the answer to that is that try as hard as companies wish, they can't. The devs at Monolith have a crazy hard lock patent on this one that forces other companies to try but circumvent a lot of the good stuff from this system. As an example, Ubisoft, yes, think of them whatever you want. They might have devolved as of late in their game development and approach to open world, but they had planned for something similar for a long time. Ever since Assassin's Creed Origins, they had this system with mercenaries that will be chasing you depending on the rating that you had in the world. Rating, that's more like GTA terms, depending on how bad you've been. Morality system that they kind of had implemented in Watch Dogs already, but that one was expanded even further in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it was goddamn close to becoming somewhat from the Nemesis system. Even better was the thing that they had in Watch Dogs Legion, the game that allows you to play as everyone. And back then they kicked things up a notch. The game was not perfect, but the technology was quite amazing, I have to admit that. Like with like 12 animations for every types of characters, 20 times the recorded voice lines because you needed to rework the new dialects, new inflections for the voice acting. Like, it was good stuff. Like, Ubisoft might be wrong on a lot of things, but that was genuinely impressive. The problem is that no matter how much they did, they could not get too close to feeling like the Nemesis system, lest they wanted to find themselves in a lawsuit taken to court like EA was with the Simpson Road Rage against Sega some years ago, as they had copied Crazy Taxi. What I'm trying to get at here is that Monolith and Warner Brothers, adjacent to that, managed to lock away a mechanic. They managed to patent it to make that one distinction unique enough to make it so that it stifled the development of many other games. And no matter how ridiculous a lot of these patents end up seeming, some of them tend to leave some long-lasting effects on the industry. It wasn't until 2015 when Namco, yes, the parent company of some of our now favorite RPGs, ended up making it so that we could not have mini games during loading sessions in between playthroughs. It was wild. Now, naturally, SSDs and much more powerful hardware have made those things obsolete now. You can barely see the recommended hints that you get in a game now before it's loaded into a new level. Yet still, that was a thing that gamers or game developers had to circumvent somehow when playing games. And overall, the innovation of game is also just something that is centered around iteration. It's an important part of the creative endeavor that many developers end up going across. That's what also inspires a lot of gamers who end up becoming developers. If we end up having something that is so specific that is locked away in the way that Nintendo is trying to do here, this could open the floodgate to something that is very bad in the future. Now, one could rightfully say that Palworld or Pocket Pair could get around this by just simply changing the shape of whatever the balls that are being used in their games, right? If Nintendo does in fact go with the one patent that was presented before and turn it into, I don't know, the Traveler from Destiny in terms of shape, like a tetrahedra, sure, they could do that, maybe. But with the multitude of patents that Nintendo then have, they can go with an outright just shotgun method. Just shoot and try to see what sticks. And that can be wild. As I said before, they have quite a lot of things that specifically works in their favor. And now, as I've said before, even in my Palworld review, it's not so surprising that Nintendo is acting this way, because they might very well have the last vestiges of the biggest international property in Japan, and one that is outright directly, in fact, competing with giants like Disney. That's why they are so angsty about every single thing that might as much as infringe on either copyright, trademark, or patent. They are very defensive on everything. That's the thing that they attack content creators for, companies like the Chinese one that I named before, and of course now methods against Palworld. This is not good. Absolutely not. My comment here is not to defend Nintendo in any way whatsoever. What they are doing is absolutely scummy, just to give you a certain level of perspective. One thing that could, however, make this extremely funny is, of course, if every single company started to do something similar, because it would more or less turn this thing into something void, right? Shin Megami Tensei has been having that all the time. There are plenty of companies who are doing something similar, and are Nintendo going to be going after them all the way? Obviously not. This is a case that most likely has to do with a big dog going after the little guy, and that is always unfortunate that it has to go this way. Now, Palworld in its own right has a lot going on for it, right? Currently, there are new patches are being added. There have been discussions. These are not things that are confirmed about whether or not the developer was aiming to go in live service. The discussions have been had, okay? They're not doing it. They said that they have that in mind, but it is only something that they want to implement if the gamers want it to be so. Because yes, it is not at the peak that it was before. It actually is now currently at the numbers that they would have been expecting initially. So I don't know exactly where they're aiming to go in the future. I just hope that they keep treating this project with the love and care that they gave it as they began with it. So hopefully everything turns out well with Palworld. Anyways, guys, hope that this video was informative or perhaps also entertaining for you. And of course, if you liked it, hit that like and also subscribe button to see more. I like to share a little bit of news here and there whenever I can. So yeah, subscribe if you want to see that. That being said, I wish you all to have a wonderful day. See you guys in the next one. Bye.